Hello, and thank you for joining me here on Sew Stitch Hex. On this segment, we're going to be doing is Bibliofancy. Again, it's one of my favorites, if you can't tell. Pagans and the Law. Now, this book, which is Understand Your Rights, by Dana D. Eiler, attorney and pagan activist. And it has this cute picture of a scale with a pentacle in it. And there's also the yin-yang sign of there. Sorry, I was like, which one am I pointing at? Really cute. One thing I've learned since reading this is that if you do have a pagan issue, like one of the ones I read about being, this woman was working, I can't remember which book I read it in. It might have been A Community of Witches, or it might have been Witches in America, or Paganism in America. Might have been that one, which I was reading at the same time as this. Whichever one it is, it was printed at Harvard, I think. It's an old library book. They talked about how this one woman, it relates to this, she did something to her co-worker, and her co-worker went to report it, and this business was considered a Christian company, and the co-worker reported that the employee was cursing them or hexing them or something. The employee was just throwing words out. They had no proof, of course, and the company doesn't actually recognize that other person's religion or practice, so they didn't agree that they were cursing them. But that person still sought to get that person fired and achieved it. So even though the company blatantly said they do not believe in that person's spiritual practice or the idea of cursing, they still got that person fired, and that person fought for their job, did not win, but something they didn't believe in, and they still got fired because of a rumor that they cursed them. And it was just kind of stupid. One thing I do like about this is it's got a reference to Witch Fox in there. I put a little sticky note in there. Alright, so this book goes like chapter by chapter. The introduction and the first and... what chapter is that? The introduction, the first chapter, and I think the 5th chapter about employment discrimination. Those are my favorites. They were really good overall. I think most pagans should get this book. So there's little excerpts that are just really cute. They're put in little like boxes, if you see it, with the little gavel at the top. Like this one is, in the year 2002, the Pagan Pride Project reported record-breaking attendance at its events. At Pagan Pride events held in the United States, Canada, the UK, Italy, Portugal, and Brazil, event coordinators reportedly filed attendance for 2002 at 29,506. representing an increase in more than 12,000 people over year 2001 participants. And then just kind of gives like cute little facts and statistics in the little things. There's another one. I'll find another one and read it too. But I really liked, because it talks about the first 10 amendments separates, the state and religion. It separates what's important, but like how we still get problems. Like we still run into problems. Because they're granted in theory. Rights may be guaranteed in theory, but they may also be denied in practice. Sometimes you have to endure great unpleasantness and make certain sacrifices to safely hold those rights. This is not exactly fair, but it is a fact. As many of the litigants in the cases discussed in this book have discovered, still, if our pagan children are to be secure in their spirituality, then we of the previous generations must be prepared to clear the path so that they can forge ahead. It's the idea that this older woman who was like murdered, I think, by a robber. Her and her family were like witches, and they said it was part of their spiritual practice. There was this girl who was sexually assaulted, and because she's a witch, it literally got ignored because they said it was part of her practice, and they wouldn't prosecute. Like, people already have enough problems? Really? Really? Today and age. Today. Really? So, I found this book to be really informative, and it talks about one of the things I noticed, actually, really cute while I'm flipping through, and I found another one of the little boxes. They're so cute. In the first chapter, which was one of my favorites, I did notice the her and him, like when you're talking about her or him, they did feminine first, and I like that. That's just, it's a feminist thing. I enjoyed it. It was cute. If you're looking for free legal advice or a low-cost attorney, just enter the search terms pro bono legal assistant into your search engine. You will pull up dozens of websites directing you to low-cost legal assistance. Check with your state's bar association, usually located in your state's capital, for pro bono groups of lawyers or referrals to pro bono lawyers. There's a website, www.law.freeadvice.com/resources/linkbar.htm, which represents most, if not all, bar associations in the country. And they talk about how the computer has changed, and they offer more more websites about legal advice. So this really is a book on getting you help, putting it in layman's terms so you can understand what's going on. Getting the ACLU to represent you might be harder than you think. The American Civil Liberties Union, how hard it is. There's a talk about getting a lawyer and deciding that this, like, if you tried to go to court and saying that what happened was an injustice against you because of your religion, it's really hard because people don't want to fight that case, and it would escalate and go up. But what they're saying here is that that's not the case that is going to work the best, but they do describe how to fight it, like how to do your thing. How, I think one of the examples in here was this woman, I believe. Yes, the woman, her husband was trying to keep her from getting custody of their children in a divorce case because she was a witch. And he was citing that because of that she was not mentally stable. And as it was going, it looked like it was winning. Now, I don't remember what the specifics of the case were, but they did have to fight it because her religion wasn't that she was crazy or dangerous or anything. It's just her practice. What's wrong with people? So, like, yeah, insanity. And this book describes it. Like, chapter 3, which was really good, was Pagans and the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That's the First Amendment. Basically, this one covers there's like one of the excerpts. The United States Supreme Court can invalidate acts of Congress by declaring them unconstitutional. For example, the Supreme Court declared 1993 Religious Freedom Restoration Act unconstitutional. According to the Supreme Court, Congress acted beyond its constitutionally specified powers by enacting the legislation. They have to define what religion is, and they talk about how basically this is just a lot of legal talk and discussing the amendments and how it's important. But overall, like, it's very informative. If you have no idea what's going on, this breaks it down for you. It's very easy to read. I really like the excerpts, like Wicca and the military. The overall topic of pagans in the military is a rather complex matter requiring a more in-depth treatment by someone actually in the military, and it's only briefly touched upon here. There is a website that specifically deals with pagans in the military. The Military Pagan Network, located at www.milpagan.org. The courts of military justice have specifically addressed Wicca and have done so favorably. Wasn't a recognized religious practice in the state of North Carolina. That's the head jailer refused to give defendant the Wiccan Bible when he was in jail. Talking about this. So, which, I mean, I had never thought about that before. like defining the, like, you go to court and you put your hand on the Bible. Like, I hadn't thought about, like, well, what if you don't believe in the Bible? Like, use the Quran. Well, if you're not using the Quran, use the witch's Bible or the Wiccan Bible. Like, they don't recognize that. But, like, if you don't recognize it and you put your hand on it, can you still lie? Because they're like, I'm not swearing on my book. You know? Just things I hadn't thought of until reading this book. And so I found that really interesting. Another thing I loved is in the bibliography, they reference all the cases that they have. So it goes from school district versus Shemp, McDonald's restaurants of Massachusetts, Cantwell v. Connecticut. I'm only reading parts of them when they don't have like full names. Some of them are like big ones. Crowley v. Christensen. Some of these are like really crazy. And some of these are in like, let me see, that one is in 1890, the last one that I mentioned. Some of these are in as late as 1998. I think there's 2001. Because this book, particularly, was published by New Page Books in... when was it published? Oh, in 2003. So getting, cases referenced up to almost when the book was published or in final writing stages, it did really well. And another thing I loved is it had lots of pages to put notes on. And I bought a used copy. And when it arrived, I was so pleasantly surprised. Somebody was actually dealing with a court case, and they took notes, extensive notes. I love that. I love getting personal writing. Like, the fact that it has so much, like, in it. And there are pages that are just highlighted that I didn't do. Because this was before I wrote in books. This is when I was only using sticky notes. And I love it. I love that it's so detailed. I love that it's so personal. I love that it has that added depth. Because this makes it almost like there's another story added. There's another chapter added with the notes. And I found that very beautiful and meaningful. I'd like to know how it ended, but the fact that there's more leaves you wanting. Yeah, some of the quotes on the back. I got fired because I'm pagan. They're threatening to take my kids away from me because I'm pagan. My husband is using my spirituality against me in our divorce. Unfortunately, these statements are all too common. Scenarios in the pagan community, people find themselves in legal situations they know little about and over which they become justifiably frightened. I like that this breaks down our Constitution, our rights, in a way that's easy to understand, because, like, I'm an idiot. I need help. So this helps. And it gives many, many examples, many cute little, like, statistics and other things to help you out, and it gives you many resources. Like, of course, not all of those websites are still going to be relative to today. I mean, it's been like almost 20 years. It's been 17 years. Like, that's a lot. But all of them may not be available, but some of them are. And if you need help, you will spend that time to look. And if you already didn't know what you were doing, this is a lot more than you already know. So I highly recommend Pagans in the Law by Dana D. Eilers. It's really good. All right. Thank you for joining me here on Sew Stitch Hex, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.